Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the After Show with Erin and Maia Huey. As you heard in the first podcast, they were real and candid in discussing their relationship with one another, the celebrations, just the journey that they've had together. And now we're going to continue the discussion where they really focus on some of the generational pieces that were passed down and what Maia in particular did with those. Please join us.
And I think like a very, specific moment that both of us had talked about before was when we were hiking as a family, and I was at a middle school was when I first started to have some body image issues. And the first time I remember having body image issues was when I went to the doctor and they told me I was overweight. But then we were hiking, and I was always a whiner as a kid. Always. I was a whiner on hikes. I was a whiner on long walks. Walking sucks. I was just like I know that I was a total pain on hikes with both my dad and my mom. I'm not now, but I was. And we were hiking, and I was whining like I always did. I'm tired. My legs hurt. I'm nauseous. And my dad got totally fed up, and he turned around and he said, "You're not tired, you're out of shape." And I ran the rest of the way. And it totally was like one of those moments where, even though it came from a place of like, don't you like, it's okay. Like, this is what happens when you don't do this all the time. You're like, it hurts, you're out of shape. It wasn't coming from a place of like, you're fat, like it was, but that really stuck and did not start, but absolutely influenced a really unhealthy relationship that I had with food and my body. And that coupled with a lot of lack of control that I felt that evolved when, we had kids living in our house, and I was moving with both my dad and my mom at the same time, separately. And just being a high schooler, like I said, that I think was the conversations that him and I had around food and body image kind of changed the way that we communicated, because I think that was something that took a little longer for him to understand, as far as how to talk to me about it, how I needed to talk to myself about it. And I actually found a group called BYBA, it's a Boulder Youth Body Alliance, and Carmen Cool, who has been on the show a few times, is absolutely my hero. I think about her all the time. I totally look up to her. She just did such a beautiful thing for so many people, and I was absolutely one of them. And I just remember this conversation. I can't remember if it was me actually telling you that I was having issues with food, because what I would do is in the mornings, I woke up before everybody, so I just didn't eat breakfast. And then he'd get up to take me to school. I'm like, yeah, I ate already. I didn't pack a lunch. Oh yeah, it's in my backpack. And then when I got to school and I didn't have lunch, I'd tell my friends I had a big breakfast, and then I'd just eat dinner. And I think it was probably when I was actually describing to you, like, no, I have an unhealthy relationship with food. I have a disordered mentality around food. Like, this is how I need you to talk to me about my weight. This is how what you get to comment on and what you don't get to say to me. And being able to set those boundaries was, I think, really what I remember being the first time where I was like, you don't get to say these things to me. Like, this is how it lands. You don't get to tell me I'm out of shape. You don't get to comment on how much I'm eating. You get to support me by holding me accountable, by, asking how I'm doing, by checking in emotionally, because it's not about food. It's about all this other crap that's happening in my life. And this is how I'm finding control. And so that was really the first time where I remember being like, hey, this is where you don't get to say anything anymore. Like, here's your line, and I'm dealing with this the way I need to. And I think that was definitely a turning point in the way that we started communicating about those deeper issues, was him needing to realize why I was eating the way it was. And it wasn't because some of it was because of weight, but really that stuff stems from a lack of control and, some other issues. And him realizing that the situation at our house was a part of that, and that was a huge contributor in my sense of ungroundedness.
Wow. That's so insightful, Maia. Wow, you're right, Erin. She has far surpassed you. That was incredibly insightful. Thank you for sharing that. I had dinner with my son last night, and he's got this girlfriend that he's really serious about, and they're talking marriage and the whole bit. And he showed me a note that she had written for him, and she had drawn a picture. And he said, "See, look at the picture she drew me." And I said, "Oh my gosh, let me read the note." And I grabbed it to read it, because that's just been our relationship, right? We've just been really, really open with each other that way. And he grabbed it back and he said, "You don't get to do that anymore, Mom. That this is private between she and I." And I thought, whoa, it stunned me for a minute. And then I thought, yeah, this is the evolution of this thing. This is how this works next. I don't get to do that anymore. Erin, what was that like for you, just hearing her talk about all that just now?
Well, once again, like, she was right. And that moment on the hike where, when I said those words, the moment they left, the moment those words left my lips, I saw her face change. And that one, when I interviewed Carmen Cool, I talked about that experience, about realizing that something that I had said had hurt someone I loved that much, that deeply. And no, I don't take full and total responsibility for everything that she was going through with her relationship to food and control. But I saw the look on her face, and it's one of those moments where you're like, you are not allowed to ever do that again. You watch your mouth. You don't get to do that anymore.
Right.
This is something that, there's multiple times like that. And, Shari, something you just said about the thing with your son last night, when Maia and her fiance had gotten to a probably, I don't know but it was a pretty major to-do between the two of them. It was one of their big ones, where they just got into it with each other. And I wasn't around, but we knew it was going on. And I bit my tongue on a daily basis. It's like, this is not yours. Like, she doesn't want your advice. She didn't ask for your opinion. She's not calling you to vent. Stay out of it. And the other side of me is like, where's my sword? I will kill everybody from here to there. I remember talking to her afterward about that experience, about how hard that was, and listening to her say, it was a good thing you didn't, because I needed that one. That one needed to just be the two of us. And they worked it out. They're getting married now. And how I go, well, hey, everybody, hang on, I got this. It's like, you don't get to do that anymore. And you learn along the way, starting at about age 15, of the things you don't get to do. You don't get to pat your kid on the fanny anymore. You don't get to, there's just, and it grows from there into, you don't get to call them when they've had a big blowout with their loved one, because that's between them. And if she calls you, ask her what she needs. Don't tell her what you think she needs to hear. Ask her what she needs to hear from you. And like that's how you let your daughter know, as a man, that she doesn't need a man to be a powerful woman. But there are men around who would really do anything to support that power. Is stop telling them what you think and start asking them if they want to know what you think. Yeah. I do that, Maya, 30% of the time, 50% of the time. I do ask sometimes, like, do you want to know what I think about this? And I know the difference between, yeah, that's why I called, and sure. But that's been where it goes with this. And then pretty soon, we just get to be adults together, and we get to travel as adults together. And, I get to pay for her wedding now, and that's awesome.
I think there being recognition too and maybe this is different kid per kid, but at least for me, like, it was a huge courageous step each time I confronted my parents, and especially my dad, about this doesn't work for me. And what that has translated to more and more in my relationship with my fiance is I can go up to him and say, this doesn't work for me. And we have a conversation about it. And that has instilled in me, like, a necessity for that kind of communication because I was raised with that. And it's gotten more and more as I've gotten older because it's honestly had to. But I think that there has to be some recognition for kids in that courage that, like, you know, when I was going through this time with my fiance where we were just in a bad place, like I was sleeping in a different room, like we were really going through it, and both of us were like, is this it? Is this what's gonna do it? And it was the first time that both of us had to be like, okay, we don't get to fix this before bedtime. Like, this is going to take a minute. We both have to be uncomfortable. We had never had to go through something where we were like, we're going to be mad at each other for a few days. Like, this takes a minute, and it might take longer. And it was I didn't call anybody. Like, I'm definitely a very social person. I rely on my friends. I rely on my family. And when something happens, like, I have a list of people I call and say, like, give me your insight. I didn't call anybody for a couple days. And I even had a friend that was like, why the hell didn't you call me? I'm like, gosh, I would have been there. It's like, I know you would have been there, but like, I have never experienced this before. I have to make my own decision. Like, I need to figure out how I feel about this. Cause I knew how my dad would feel and felt about it. Right. And I knew that conversation with him would, as though it would come from a place of love, would influence me in a way that would not have been helpful to me in that moment, because I was not in a place where I could hear that and then also then make my own decision. I had to make my own decision first and then tell him, this is my decision. And being really okay with, you know, I think that was the most recent time, and I think probably one of the most extreme times where I'm like, it's okay if he doesn't agree with my decision. And it's okay if he doesn't trust my decision. It's okay if he's mad at me for making these decisions. It's okay if he's mad at my boyfriend, and he doesn't have to agree with this. And this is why I'm not still living at home. You know, like, this is why I'm an adult living somewhere else, living my life. Like, I get to decide what happens next. And it was really, there was a lot of anxiety for me knowing that conversation would inevitably happen with him, you know, with him asking, so what happened, that he would be disappointed. And he wasn't, you know, he trusts me, and we had that conversation. But I think that's something as a kid, no matter how much you want to be like, I'm my own person, like, you always have this, like, are they going to be proud? Like, would they back this? Like, would my mom be proud of me? Would my dad be proud of me for this decision? You know, even though they're going to tell me they love me and they're proud, like, what would happen if I flunked out of college? Like, what would happen if my business didn't take off and it was like a total failure and they've invested all this time and money? Like, you know, what would that look like for, you know, his followers to find out that his daughter, like, failed at a business? You know, like, all those things really do come through your head when, like, I'm in this spot of, you know, feeling down or feeling like I'm not doing as well as I could. There's all these things of, like, everybody's about to come to my graduation. What if I didn't graduate? I know I'm going to, but, like, you know, you have that constant pressure. So in the moment to be like, I'm going to take charge of this is frightening and takes, I think, some courage to do. And then to turn around and say, yeah, you didn't get to weigh in on that. Like, that wasn't yours. It's not your decision. This is mine.
I don't know that ever goes away, Maia, that in the back of your head. I mean, I'm almost 50, and I was just talking to Mom today about, I still want you to be proud of me. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm okay if you're not. Right. I still want that. And I think I'll always want that. Yeah. Your relationship is beautiful. I appreciate both of you talking so candidly with us about it. Aaron, what do you want to say in closing here?
That I think I've spent so much time making sure that she knows that I adore her unconditionally and would, you know, lay down my life to make sure that hers could continue. And to listen to to what you just said, Shari, about being 50 and still wanting your parent to be proud of you, and hearing my daughter say that, wonder if there's actually a way to communicate to your kids. Yeah, it wouldn't matter. Nothing would matter, because nothing matters more than this relationship to me. And it matters so much because I was willing to put it second at one point in my life, and how much pain I caused everybody, my own family, myself, But most importantly, this little girl who at that age was looking at me as this being who is guiding her through this experience, that you can't fail that. And that no matter how hard or what clever way you say, no matter how many axes you buy your daughter, she will wonder, does he love me enough to buy me an axe? And the answer is yes. But at some point, as I'm listening to what you just said, Shari, at some point, you hope that is the second question that comes up. The first question is for my daughter to ask herself, do I love myself unconditionally? If I didn't go to college, would I love myself unconditionally? Would I be proud of myself? And to realize that I've probably passed on the answer no, because I know what it's like to not be proud of yourself unconditionally. And I know what it's like to not be loved unconditionally by a father. My dad loves me unconditionally. My father does not. Yeah. And so I still struggle with that, but that's my need to fulfill now within myself, just in the same that I'm listening to my daughter and recognizing that she knows my answer. So this really isn't a question for me. It's her own internal work. If everything I did, no, I wouldn't be proud of myself. I'm proud of myself because I'm doing whatever it takes to do right by my kids, by my wife, by my business, by my employees, and by the people who've entrusted me with helping them help their family. Right. So I can't fail, and I won't fail. But that's on me. That's not on her. And I see now that in her as well. Yeah. So it's like, shit, I screwed her up again.
With you, Aaron. I see.
Write it on the list. I got it logged away.
Just add it to the list, Maia.
Well, I was going to say, I know you've asked me this, and I think I'm also now just having this epiphany. You've asked me this question, well, where do you think that this, pressure on yourself comes from? And a couple minutes ago, I was listing how much of a multitasker I am. And I have my own business. I'm in school. I'm doing this. You have a podcast. You own your own business. You do seminars. What do you think? Where do you think it comes from? And a lot of that mentality, trying to be the best I know it's for us, but you have a huge following. You have a lot of people. Sorry, Chris is calling me. Oh my God, sorry. You have a lot of people watching you, and in turn they're watching me too, and Dylan, and so that's where that comes from. I think it's not just in the words you say. Everything you do is something you're demonstrating to your kids. The way that you live your life is something that you demonstrate, and yeah, and you don't really have a way to control how it's going to land, but being willing to take a step outside of yourself to understand how it did land and try to sympathize, and realize it doesn't matter why you did it. It's just that you did it, and this is what happened. Is I think it's really important. It instills a lot of good communication skills. Even with all these things that I really struggled with, I have very good communication skills with my friends and with my partner and with my parents. And a lot of it's because I've always been able to come up to either of them and say, hey, that didn't work for me. Let's talk about it. And they could do the same with me. So I think that's really important.
It's awesome.
I think at the end of this, because we talk about intention, delivery, and perception, what I was intending, what I intend by living a life like this, how I deliver it, and how you perceive it, makes me want to come back and re-clarify the intention, right? And that is, I have done whatever it takes so that I'm happy and that I'm taking care of myself in the right way, so that you know how to do that, so that you can take care of yourself in the right way, so that above all, the only thing I've ever wanted for you is that you're happy. And that in this, I'm happy. I love my life. I love my kids. I love my wife. I love my work. I love my mission in this world. I love the gods that are around me. And that's That's what I want the intention to be, is do whatever it takes to be happy. And in the meantime, get through all that emotional shit that I've been modeling and passing down to you, and that it's like, here's all this luggage that I've been using my whole life for your journey. Ignore the mommy stuff. Like, it's like, but here you go. Happy birthday. But ultimately, this has led to happiness. And I hope that that's also what you see.
Is it, Maia?
It is.
Yeah, I thought so.
I think I have the same intentions with all of the things I do too, but then it's that emotional stuff, like I also would have set myself up for, if the business doesn't work out, I have a bachelor's degree. And if I've set myself up in a very similar way. And along with that comes all of this other stuff.
Yeah.
That you have to work through and choose what your non-negotiables are. What is your why? Is it, yeah. So yeah. Absolutely.
Oh man, I wish we could keep talking to you guys for hours. You're fun. It's been fun to listen to your story as father and daughter, and all of it, the beauty of that, the moments that, you have to kind of wade through and navigate. And as a parent, I appreciate so much of what you said today too, Erin. Thank you both. Erin, how do our listeners get to find out a little bit more about you?
Well, my podcast on the same network as Shari and Jann's is Beyond Risk and Back. You see it. I am all about shameless self-promotion. So in the back, my t-shirt, beyondriskandback.com. You can email me at aaron@firemountainprograms.com. I'm either going to go cry myself into a migraine or start drinking again. So thank you for this opportunity. Because it's just, you realize a lot of things doing this work. And I really love you a lot, Punk. You're the best thing that ever happened to me.
Well, it's beautiful. Now I'm going to cry. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you both.
If you want to listen to this podcast, and we hope that you do, go to our website at sharisimmons.com, SHARISIMMONS. And we will have a couple of links for you to look at along with this podcast. Check out Aaron's. His podcasts are fantastic. He's got the #1 parenting podcast right now. So you'll get a lot of good stuff from him as well. Thank you both again for being here today.
Thank you so much.